Gents, I just want to pause the episode for a moment to let you know about the Strong Men of Value Academy. You will have heard me refer to it a number of times, and I want to bring more attention to it. So this isn't just a program, it's a life-changing environment and community of men who are focused on personal and professional growth. We're looking at areas of relationships, wealth, and health, things to help you thrive and maximize your life. Imagine having bi-monthly one-on-one coaching sessions with myself, weekly group coaching calls, and an incredible brotherhood of high achievers by your side. Now we're diving into resilience, leadership, and holistic growth to not just succeed in your career, but to thrive in your health and your relationships. Your journey to greatness, it starts here. So join the movement and you can apply for the Strong Men of Value Academy. You can head to themanthatcanproject.com to find out more.
You're listening to The Man That Can Project with Lachie Stuart, a global movement created to empower men and open up what's really going through their minds by having real and raw conversations about life's unique challenges and our individual ways of processing it all. Welcome to The Man That Can Project.
All right, guys, if you're tuning in for the first time, please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. So today, I've invited a few members from our Inner Circle community on to have a discussion. And it's a new format I wanted to try because I know that so many men in the Inner Circle have incredible life experience, a ton of knowledge that I want to tap into, and I think you guys will get a heap of value from. And just the opportunity to learn and grow together. So today we are doing a podcast or having a discussion around pornography with some of the gents, as I mentioned, from the Inner Circle. You know, we're going to sort of touch base on how we were introduced to porn, the negative side effects, how it's impacted sexual relationships, why we look at it, and how our sexual experience has been influenced by porn. Now, I find it fascinating because, you know, as you'll hear everyone sort of share their take on it, at some point in our life we're going to be introduced to it, and you'll hear this throughout the chat that we're all introduced to it at varying ages. So if it's something that most people are going to be exposed to, we should probably have some education around it and, you know, find where or how we can best utilize it to be better men, to be better partners, and to just treat everyone involved with more respect. So it's a great discussion, and I look forward to hearing your feedback. So if you do have some, I guess, thoughts or perspectives you'd love to share, make sure you jump into the Facebook group and just start a thread, put a post and just say, hey, listen to an episode on pornography and here's my thoughts, here's my experiences, because we'd all love to hear from you guys as well. And everyone's experiences is so unique, and it's definitely something that the more conversation we get, the greater we can all learn and have that progressive conversation. So yeah, before we dive in, if you haven't looked into the Inner Circle program, guys, it doesn't matter where in the world you are, you can join in. It's an online community. We meet weekly. We continue to create momentum in our lives, and there is some very, very exciting upgrades in the works at the moment. Obviously, with the back office, giving you an incredible introductory series of videos of how to become a man of value. Okay, but just the whole platform I'm investing in the moment is about to go boom. So I'm excited for all the members' experience to get that one step more connected and help everyone take their lives to the next level. So enough from me. Let's join in on the episode. Welcome back to another episode of the Man That Can Project podcast. Today we are going to have an incredible conversation, one which I'm excited to see where it goes. I know I'm going to learn a lot, and I know the lads who are sharing the conversation with me are going to blow people's minds, and I think this is going to be one that will need to be shared around a lot. And it's on the topic of pornography, pornos, something that a lot of us gentlemen grow up being exposed to. And I think people in general get exposed to, and probably is still in a lot of people's lives. And what the intention for this conversation is today, I've invited a few guys from our Man That Can Projects community. Obviously, one of the perks of being in the community, you get invited on the podcast. But to share their experiences. So we do want to cover topics based around how we were introduced to porn, some negative side effects, or even some positive side effects. Actually, I didn't put that in the notes, that we've experienced, whether it's impacted sexual relationships, why we look at it, and how it's influenced our, I guess, expectations in the sexual space. So I'm excited. I'm going to hand it over to the boys, and they can introduce themselves as they sort of go around. And then we're going to have an incredible conversation probably for the next 45 minutes or so. But gents, let's dive into it. Whoever wants to take the floor first, and it'd be cool to sort of pass it around a bit for this first part around how you were introduced to porn. And then from that, we'll just allow the conversation to go wherever it chooses to go. So who wants to take the floor?
Okay, looks like it's me.
I knew it was going to be you, Glenn.
Hello. Yeah, so did I. Hey, my name's Glenn. Second time on the podcast, so it's cool. Interesting subject. So I guess the first thing for me is to introduce to porn. Mine was fully old school, finding the old man's books in the cupboard, and then not realizing what they were, and then really going from there. So, like as for everybody, we don't talk about it. It's never spoken about. So you have no idea what's going on and what you're doing. Or you really feel like a lot of people, I think you just know that it's got to be a secret. You keep it the secret and no one talks about it. And that's what I did. It was just a deep, dark secret. And like at school, everyone hassles everybody about what they do. And we all say, nah, we don't do that. We don't touch ourselves. We don't do that. No. And we're all doing it. So the fact that we're not guided, well, I wasn't guided at all. And so for me, it had a highly negative part of my life. Like it because it was a secret, that's how it stayed. And so I didn't share it with anybody. And it I think to a point, like it sort of spirals out of control because it's a secret, and you don't really know what to do because you don't know if it's right or wrong. All you do is you just have no idea, so you just sort of make it up as you go along. So it has impacted on my relationships and in a negative way, because you have this expectation, and then when you're actually with somebody and you're with a girl and you're like, where's all the pizzazz? Where's the legs going flying everywhere? And you have, and once again, you're like, is this right? Like, is this what we're supposed to be doing? And it's that whole thing again. So yeah, that's going to be my introduction into it. I'll pass it on to somebody else now. Next.
Yeah, all good, mate. I'll jump in. So I'm Joey. First time on the podcast, long time listener, first time caller, so to speak. I wasn't introduced to porn sort of later in life. I guess I would have been, I think, 20, 22, 23 when I watched my first porn movie, for lack of a better term. Interesting enough, that was actually while I was in a relationship. It was a long distance relationship. So how I was introduced, I guess, sitting with mates, having a few beers, talking about it. Like obviously I was aware of what porn was and what it was since just sort of early to late teens, but I didn't watch it. Then I thought, why watch a movie when you can have the real thing? So I wasn't introduced until, as I said, to the early 20s in a long distance relationship, when you're young, the juices are flowing, you're sitting at home by yourself, and your missus is out somewhere, like at work or something like that, and she's an hour flight or a 10-hour drive away. There's not many other options. So similar to what Glenn was saying, I think it has negatively impacted past relationships, not necessarily the relationship I'm in at the moment. I have a fiance who I love very much and I live with, lucky enough. But in the past, it's similar to what Glenn said. Like you're trying to relate what's really happening with whoever you're having sex with what you're seeing in front of you in a porn movie being performed by actors. Like, is that it? Like, where's, as Glenn said, where's all the pizzazz? Where's the legs flying in the air? Where's the screaming and the moaning, all that sort of thing? So, yeah, and I think in that past relationship, our sexual intimacy or sexual connection suffered because of that. I thought I was watching porn thing and it's supposed to be like this, and then saying like, oh, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with us? Why isn't our sex like this? And took, that relationship went on for about 2 years, and it's not ultimately what ended it, that lack of sexual intimacy, but definitely had a contributing factor. So yeah, that's sort of my introduction, I guess, and my views on porn and how it's impacted me. So I'll chuck it over to one of the other boys.
All right, I guess I'll jump in now. So my name's Jesse. I'm part of the Man That Can, and one of Lachie's colleagues at work. And I thought I'd jump on just as a bit of a younger point of view. Different generations and all that kind of stuff. So my first exposure to pornography when I was probably about 12, I was uploading some music onto my iPod. And one of my older brothers had obviously left something on the iTunes library, and it went straight to my iPod. And that's how I first got exposed to videos and that kind of stuff. So it was, accidental find, I guess you could say. But then, growing up in high school, it was just like common talk and all that kind of stuff for the boys to share it around the school on their phones and all that kind of stuff, with like what videos they had downloaded or whatever else had gone on. But then in terms of how it affected relationships, I definitely think it built like a false sense of what my first sexual experience would be like. And definitely led to some disappointment on both ends. I guess that built up a lot of anxiety around, just sexual interaction. Why isn't it the same as what it is on the screen and all that kind of stuff? So it's definitely glorified, and as all the other boys said, there's no pizzazz, especially at that age. I guess that's all I've got to say. So I'll pass it on to the other boys.
Yeah, well, I guess I'll introduce myself. I'm Mike, part of the Inner Circle. First time on Lachie's podcast. Pleasure to be on here. I got introduced to porn really early in my life, year 5, year 4. How old that is, 9 or 10. Growing up in a family where it was, readily available and around, talking VCRs and those types of things. Knew it was the wrong thing to be doing. Mum and Dad would sneak out and chuck the VCR on and have your mates over. It's obviously set me up for a lifetime of struggles when it comes to the negative side effects of it. Not a good thing, not a bad thing either, but we probably need to bit more education around it. That's me, Lachie.
Well, thanks, gents, for sharing that. I'll share mine as well. I want to get into it. I'll never forget mine. I was grade 8, so I went to obviously a school up in Toowoomba, and a lot of the boarders, obviously in the dormitories, they're exposed to it pretty early, and I had never been exposed to it. I hadn't even thought about, I'd thought about kissing and all that sort of stuff, but never really sex. I was too into my skateboarding and everything else. And I remember the boarders were passing around this disc, right? So I was probably in between Glenn and the younger boys, where magazines were still a thing, but, CDs were there. So I was keen to grab onto the CDs, and they gave me the disc Sexy Nurses 3, if anyone's seen that. It looked like it was a fucking 80s or 90s porno anyway, but I remember, I didn't really want it, but I took it just out of wanting to look cool. And I, took it home, and when I put it on, I fucking nearly spewed. I still remember watching it, and I went all pale. It's like I'd seen blood. Like I just went all pale and felt really disgusting. And so I took the movie out and walked down the hallway, ready to take it back. And I was like, nah, I've got to watch this because the boys are going to ask me about it tomorrow. So I had to suffer through it. But that was when I was 12, 13, that I got experience to that. But I think for those who are listening, and obviously the guys on here, there was some 5 different stories around it, aging from 12 years up to 22 and beyond, from how we got introduced or when we got introduced to pornography. And I think what that highlights to everyone is that it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, or what age you are. At some point, it's probably going to find you. And anything in life that's going to find us, we probably should be educated on the good, the bad, the ugly around it, so we know what to do with it when it happens, rather than just trying to turn a blind eye to it. And then if it does show up, it can completely destroy our lives. And obviously, a few of the lads touched on negative side effects or how it affected relationships. But I know, and this, I think, gents, we'll just go into a free-flowing conversation, just chime in wherever with experiences and perspectives. But I still remember, and I was only saying this to Amy because I was telling Amy that we were about to do a podcast on this, and I was like, it took me back to, I remember growing up, like from that age of 13 plus, thinking that girls loved getting a load in the face. And Amy's like, what? I was like, I know it's kind of fucking ridiculous that you think that, but that's legitimately what myself and all my mates thought, because you're watching these movies where they're saying, come on, do this. And it look, obviously it's acting, but you don't get any education. So you're like, maybe they like that. And what do you do when you're young? You're like, all right, I'm going to try that. When you're maybe a bit older and wiser, you find out that they don't like it as much as I was shocked. No, I'm kidding. But it's crazy. The edge, like what we see really impacts us. I think the conversation around that, but for you guys, the experiences that you've had, I know Glenn was saying, Joey was saying, like legs all over the place, the sounds and everything, like it does play a role in, I know for myself, I felt like I was inadequate because I wasn't getting the noises that I was expecting, and all of that sort of stuff. I was just like, fuck, maybe I'm not doing this right. Where's the fucking crazy shows? I don't know about you guys, but I'd love to hear more about how it sort of made you guys feel when you obviously went to real life scenarios.
Yeah, well, like for me, it was like the biggest thing was and I guess like for everybody, that's basically it's your sexual education, and so when it's so vastly different to what you're sort of expecting, you do get all these issues, and I think like we've all touched on it, like education is the biggest thing that we need to be doing to help like the next generation. But as far as like real life experiences, because I mean, like I was real old school, like, so I didn't say, like I was about like 8 or 9 or something myself when I discovered porn. But like as I got older, the only way you could get porn was, you had to rent it at the video shop. This is the way that I had to do it. Like when I discovered videos, and I didn't have a video player, so I had to rent the bloody video player as well. And so that, so you're walking down the street with this ginormous box and this video, and like that, it was, yeah, like you can actually, it's a picture no one really wants to see, but yeah, and like, but that was the thing about it, because it was something, because it was like way better than real life for me, and so it was almost like I'd pretty much say that I was addicted like right through my teenage years. It was really bad for me, and it's taken like my wife and myself like years to actually work through it, and to the point where I'm really comfortable now where I could talk about it, because man, I'm telling you, like 2 years ago, there's no freaking way I'd be talking about this to you guys right now as openly as I am, because just in the last 2 years, like how much everybody's actually realized the impact that this is on the older generation coming through to the newer generation, because of the ease that they that you guys, the younger guys like Jesse and probably Joey as well, it's just too damn easy to get hold of. So yeah.
Glenn, I agree with pretty much everything you've said, and like what you were saying before, like in a way, it almost, if you're watching porn is your first sexual experience, whereas I was different, where I actually had sex before watching porn, so I had somewhat of an understanding that it's not always going to be like that. But yeah, Lachie, as you said, like it teaches you, or it teaches men, I guess, about like what girls don't like that, and you look at the negative side effects of porn. I guess if you're using that as a young man growing up as your sexual education, as Glenn said, like it's not healthy. It's not teaching you about how to treat the woman that you're having sex with. Like looking at porn movies doesn't paint women in a very positive light. Like it doesn't teach a young man much about consent or anything like that. And that's what I think. So.
I think you nailed that. I was just writing a note about that. Because it definitely takes away from what it is, right? Like it's always going to be like that wham bam thank you ma'am approach, where it's just like in out thank you, and we don't ever look beyond what the actual act of sex is, because there isn't that education. But as you were saying, Joey, like it's not always like what they say it is, and maybe that's what leads to the sexual assault and everything like that, because there are a lot of people who grow up and they're like, well, this is what should happen and this is how it should happen, and if you don't allow it to happen, I'm going to force it upon you because maybe you'll like it, because in the pornos they like it. And there's various other things could be a ripple effect off the back of that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree with that. And yeah, and what the boys were saying before, like I think that as everyone sort of discussed, sometimes having sex is not scripted, so it's not going to go like a pornographic movie. So I think that feeds the addiction for some, saying like, well, why am I putting myself out there to have sex with a partner or a woman who's not your partner, when I know it's not going to be as good as watching a porno at home? So why don't I just keep on watching the porno and not have sex? I think that's that's an extreme case of where that addiction can lead someone.
I think with what you're saying there, like I completely agree. But then for me, I was in a quite serious relationship through high school. But because obviously, at that age and that kind of stuff, everyone's got different morals and things, and we just never really got that intimate in the relationship. But I was exposed to porn at such a young age that that's all I wanted from the relationship. Well, not anything, but that was like one of the higher factors in my intentions behind a relationship. And it was, in a way, probably was definitely not the best motivation to be in the relationship in the first place. But in a way, I find growing up in a family full of boys, from a young age, I was told, because I got older brothers. So, they all went through the stuff that I went through, but before me. And I got to see, my parents, lecture them about, how unhealthy porn was, and how, it doesn't really teach you about real life and all the other ethical side effects of pornography and all that kind of stuff. But I guess that allowed me to enter into that area with being quite aware of that ethical side, and then being in a relationship that limited intimacy. It kind of just allowed me to not learn from porn, but use porn to my benefit in terms of helping me stay in that relationship and avoid, acting up or being, just an arsehole, I guess.
It's interesting.
Sorry. Okay. No, I was just going to say I guess one of the biggest things that I've sort of noticed is like male misogyny. There's been a lot of talk about it lately, and I think that this is a core part of where that's actually coming from, is because of like how we're educated, and like you were saying, Lachie, like that. Girls you watch these movies and girls are gagging for it, and if I take you, you're just going to like it, and like I think that people don't realize that they're actually being misogynists because of the fact that of the education, and it's been going for so long, and it's actually now a mindset of like how they see women. And I think it's also like I remember like, because me and my wife, we've spoken about this for years, and she's saying, like, I don't understand how you, like, because this makes her feel like crap, like she's like, I'm not that person, I'm not these girls, I'm not interested in that, like, don't you dare come on my face, like, like, that's not gonna happen. And so all of this sort of thing. So I think with our parents, like how they used to say, I think it was Jesse was saying, the fact that we're told that how unhealthy porn is, but they don't say to us what's the right way to bring up, like what's the right way to have a relationship, like what is the right way to how are you supposed to treat a girl and into a woman. And I think that's one of the biggest things that where we fall over, because we just get told it's wrong, but maybe we should be told what's right about, like what is right about porn, and what if there is positives to it, how we can actually use it as a positive thing.
Yeah. I think if it is going to be used as, like, if people are using, I don't even know what the numbers are. Maybe you do, Glenn, with how many people watch or view porn, but if people are doing it anyway.
Everybody.
Yeah. But if people are doing it anyway, surely we can change the narrative. And I think there is actually that podcast you sent me, Glenn, around the different, obviously the main players, and I'll just speak from what I know is like RedTube, Porn, what's it called? Pornhub or whatever, there's the big players, right? But that's where a lot of the trash shit is, and it's degrading, it's unrealistic, and it's setting up a lot of people to fail on a lacking intimacy, as Jesse was saying. How we treat whoever you're doing the deed with is appalling majority of the time, and generally what our expectations are. So that podcast that you shared with me, Glenn, how there's actually websites out there which you can subscribe to, which actually shows you the whole process of it. And it's interesting that at school they give us the birds and the bees chat, but they never teach us about sex, and no one talks about sex. It's so personal and private, yet no one knows what the fuck they're doing. It's like mental health. Like, we need to break the stigma on that so everyone knows. Like, imagine if they just gave you a car without teaching you how to drive it. It'd be fucking car crash. And that's what's happening with most people in their sex life.
Yeah. Because I think, like, girls are getting such pressure because they see this stuff too. Like, they're subjected to the same sort of content that males are. And I think they're like, man, are we supposed to be like this? And I think, like you say, Lachie, it's a really good point that, like, maybe at schools they need to actually introduce porn into schools and say, be saying, look at this. This is not real. This is, saying it to girls and to guys and to boys, so they both have a chance to like understand who they are and have a better chance at having a more fulfilling relationship. Because, oh man, I would just hate to be a teenager in this day and age with that sort of stuff, content that's around now.
Yeah, I think that's where the gap is, because as Jesse said, in his experience, porn can be used as a positive or as a learning tool. But as Glenn and Lachie both said, if you look at it from a girl or a woman's point of view, they know that it's not real. Like, we're not like that. We don't like those things. So if you look at introducing, I guess, pornographic education in schools, I think you need to look at it from both a men's or male point of view and a female point of view, saying what do you like, I guess, sexually, or what's wrong about this image? What would you prefer? What do you actually like? Like, what is real sex? Because I think you can't be so naive to say every person waits until they're 16 to have sex, or 18 to have sex, or as we've said in our discussions, some of our boys have found porn at 8 or 9 years old. So it's out there and it's accessible, and you're growing up with this image. And at that age, you don't know any different. As I said, I think porn can be used as a positive, but there's just a learning gap between what men watching porn or boys watching porn and understanding from it, where a female point of view is, as Glenn said, they know they don't like it, but is that what they're going into a sexual experience thinking? Is that what we have to do to please our partner? I think there's a massive gap there.
I think what's important to touch on as well is that as much as, like, you mentioned the mainstream media or the mainstream services like Pornhub and things like that, where it is literally like the trash of the trash, like the really unethical stuff and degrading stuff and all that kind of stuff. Whereas there's, these other places where, they actually do provide educational aspects to the, I guess, the pornography. Whereas, like, there's literally tutorial pornos out there that teaches you, how to do this and that and all that kind of stuff. And in a way, that's teaching a lot of the stuff that, they wouldn't even go near at sex ed at school. Like, they're not going to teach you how to treat a woman at school. So it's like, that's the gray area that, a lot of people don't see in porn. And, that's, I guess, one of the positive sides of it.
Mm. I guess, like, my point of that, because I fully hear what you're saying, Jess, and like my point as far as the education goes, I think it's for both boys and girls knowing what's right and what's wrong in school, like just starting from there and getting them as young as possible, and really parents really opening up and talking to their kids about it. Like, I've got 3 boys and I've spoken to all of them, and I know that they all be using it at young ages, and I've spoken to them openly about sort of like my experience, and trying and just hoping that they do the right thing. And that's all you can really do, I guess. So, but it's just so out of control now. It really is. Like, what people are subjected to.
Like, I definitely look back and appreciate that, my father took me aside and, said, this is right, this is wrong, when it came to that kind of stuff, similar to what you've done with your kids. So I definitely think it's definitely down to the parents to teach their kids. I think it's in a school system, it definitely wouldn't fly for a lot of people. Teachers don't really have that, I guess, relationship with the kids to be talking about that kind of stuff. I think, that would be an absolute uproar. But it's definitely parents stepping in and, being open about what's right and wrong in that area rather than just shying away from it. That definitely is what could, improve the current environment.
I just think also it objectifies women in a way that I know it's almost disrespectful from an early age, or from whenever you're exposed to that sort of degrading pornography, not the good stuff, or there is good stuff. And you talk about that too, Jesse, about, teaching in schools. A lot of kids or a lot of teachers nowadays are young, and they've obviously come through that uni system with that. I know that teachers have been degraded on, I guess. So do you really want to be putting that into the schooling system? It's just another one to think about, I guess.
It's definitely an interesting thing. Obviously, everything that I'm talking about as well is coming from, I'm not a parent at the moment, so even the whole school thought of process I haven't even considered, but I'll just discuss that one day when I'm a parent, because I don't really know how I feel about that. Obviously there's so many different ways that could go, but I think, as Jesse was saying, it's definitely up to the parents to educate. I think it's such an important part, and it needs to, like many things, important things that aren't going away, mental well-being, emotional intelligence, relationships, finances, taxes, probably need to start having those conversations around the dinner table and remove the taboo around it, so we can find out what is right, what is wrong. But even with what Jesse was saying before, it helped you in that relationship in the early days, because it gave you something instead of having to go play up, essentially. And I think it's an important thing for us as men, and also the opposite person in the relationship, need to really work on how we communicate and learning to comfortably feel like we can communicate and express what we want, or what we feel we need, and all of that sort of stuff. So setting expectations is definitely, I think it's a ground rule. It should definitely be a ground rule when addressing that, because otherwise, if we're not getting things from our relationships, or whether it's a one night stand or a long term relationship, it's like people will go and find them elsewhere. That's just human behavior. We're constantly searching for what we don't have. So I think definitely setting those expectations from the get go is hugely important. But for anyone on here, like for you guys now, is there any reason why you sort of look at it? Is there getting in the side of the heads of you guys? I think, have you ever, Glenn, you sort of touched on it before, there was in your high school days, you felt like you were definitely addicted to it or using it more than you needed to. I know for myself, it's whenever I'm fucking bored, if I've got time to kill, I know what I'm doing. And so that's why my diary is full nonstop. No, but I try to keep myself doing stuff that's probably more proactive.
Yeah. No, definitely. For me, yeah, it was I mean, like, it was definitely more like, it was right through my younger adulthood, like not just through high school, but because I mean, I couldn't even get it if I was at high school, like you can't get videos at high school. So, but yeah, I've lost my train of thought.
I've been consuming too much of it.
Yeah.
I'll chime in anyway.
Yeah, all right, good idea. About time. There's freaking all you other guys there.
Yeah. No, mate, I always lose my train of thought. You're probably off just thinking about what you're going to watch next. No, I'm kidding. It's definitely important to sort of talk about. And I'll give a bit of a recap just so we can, if anyone feels like anything comes to mind that we haven't sort of covered, or there's an experience that you want to share, or something that you feel you've learned through going certain experiences. But obviously, we were all introduced it from a varying range of ages, which, to me highlights that we're all people are going to be exposed to or experience it at some point in life. But, more so, how can we turn it into sexual education? Because at the end of the day, the way I view sex and everything like that now is like, it's more than just the wham bam thank you ma'am, as I was sort of saying before, which is, as a young fellow, I was like, not a young fellow, I would say a teenager, I was just trying to get as many runs on the belt as possible. That's how you got praised at school. The more you had, the bigger man you were, even though that's obviously complete bullshit, but that's what I was running. But it always felt empty, right? It was always like, cool, I still feel just as fucking unhappy and unfulfilled right now. Now I just got to try and get out of this bedroom. And so how do we teach people that it's more? How do we educate around this intimacy and everything else that we can give during what, I guess the moment of sex? Because porno or pornography does not show any intimacy whatsoever. And I think it's probably for those younger boys and probably people who are listening to this are more self-aware than maybe people who aren't continuing to educate themselves, but it's a conversation that needs to be had. So how do we educate more people around it? It's not always obviously like what we view it as, making sure that we can start changing the narrative around expectations and I guess how both parties feel in it, right? Like, as everyone sort of touched on here, we might not feel worthy enough because we're not getting the noises, or we're not getting all those crazy twisted positions happening. And I'm sure from the other side of the fence, it's the same thing. I'm sure people feel pressured into various things because of expectation around all of that sort of stuff within the relationship. But yeah, finally as well, the recap, it can be used in a positive way. It's just making sure you find stuff that can sort of teach that. Was there anything else that you guys feel you want to share from your own experience, or would be cool to sort of drive the conversation forward?
I think sort of sharing, we've sort of discussed, or definitely I have discussed most things that I had in my mind before starting this podcast today. But I think what you mentioned is, how do we take it from, like, we understand that porn's out there, we understand that from a man's point of view, in life, you're going to watch every man, I believe, in the world's probably watched it. There's very few that haven't. So as you said, how do you change it from something that's just out there that you watch when you're bored, as you said, and I've sort of shared, to an educational tool? Like, as you said, like, I think we all understand that having sex with someone who you care about and you're really close to is a lot more fulfilling than watching a porno movie. So why is it that a porno movie is so different to what actual sex and intimacy is in the real world? I think that's, closing that gap is the biggest thing. And how do you go about that? I'm not sure. I don't have all the answers. I think that's
$1 million question.
Well, that's it, mate. That's going to be a new industry. But yeah. If anyone does have the answer, I'm here. I'm all ears. But yeah,
I think that the reason why porn's so popular is because it's a male. The male is like getting all the pleasure. You know, like you've got this female who's doing all this crazy shit, and you're getting and it's centered on you, and you're like, man, I wish I was there, you know, because that's what it is. It's fantasy, and so that fantasy is playing on like our core as a male, like going, holy hell, like imagine, you know, having this girl doing all this stuff to you. And when we don't see it in real life, like we're going to go back to what we wish we were getting. And like for one of the things I sort of found out, which, you know, when we do another podcast on this, but the biggest thing about porn, right, is that the one thing we've forgotten is that it's entertainment. But the porn industry themselves, they're all about making money. So it's about getting eyes on screens and getting people watching and consuming as much as they can. But the problem is that it's created this humongous issue with everybody because of like how we feel about ourselves. But the porn industry don't care about that. They just want eyes on the screens watching it. And I mean, like, here's a question for everybody. Do you think Tinder is made because of the porn industry and because that actually gets us closer to that fantasy lifestyle?
Oh, mate, 100%.
Yeah, thank you, Jesse. Good for you, mate. I didn't think, honestly, man, I saw Tinder come out. I didn't think no one would go for that. I thought that was a fucking joke. Couldn't believe it. Like you look at this thing, it is blowing up, man. Like, it is crazy how much people want to be. They think that's totally fine acting like that through Tinder. And like Lachie said, you said you so yourself, like how empty you feel afterwards, and you just want to get out of that bedroom. And I think Tinder's allowed you to get out of that bedroom, you know, because it's just a hello, how are you? Close off, see you later.
That instant gratification.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's it. That's in, and Jess, sorry if I cut you off there. I'll just jump in. I think, and this is probably going down a different path. I think I don't know if Tinder's created because of the porn industry, but I don't think Tinder is created to help you find that person that you're going to be with for the rest of your life. I think they've created it so you can message multiple girls at one time and go, great, let's move on to the next one. Or that wasn't, you know, ultimately Tinder dates they end in having sex. Let's be real. And then that wasn't enough for me. Who's next? That sort of thing. I think
it goes back to that culture of like, don't bother putting any work in. You can just move on to the next thing. And it's sort of probably potentially the way porn is used is like every relationship is different, right? And there's work to be done to understand how you can best find pleasure in the relationship and understand what your boundaries, the expectation, and all that sort of stuff is, even making it more intimate and more about the physicality of it, because there is so much more that can go into it. And I think, you know, it's easy to go, I know previously in the past I've always been like, fuck, it's not like the porno, or fuck, that bird's done, see ya, which is a poor approach, but that's where I was at that point in time. Whereas now it's like, okay, well, there's so much we can learn. There's so much we need to understand. And maybe it's what we need to put that work into, take our relationship as a whole, like take the sex out, but as a whole to a new level, like that deep level of connection, communication, spirituality, whatever it is to go there. And once again, it requires work. It may require some tough conversations, some self-reflection, some honesty to get to that point. But I think, once again, Tinder, that whole swipe right, move on, say what you want. If you don't get what you're looking for, see ya. It's like, I know we're living in a fast-paced world, but that doesn't create any fucking satisfaction or any result. It just avoids responsibility. But does anyone have anything else?
100%.
Otherwise, we'll wrap it up, because I wanted to keep it around that short 45 minutes so someone could punch it on a walk to work or something like that. But gents, I appreciate you guys making the time to jump on and share your experiences and just perspectives on it. I think it's such a big industry. It's such a interesting thing to discuss. Like, I normally don't talk about it, just probably because most people don't talk about it, but I'm really intrigued by it, because I know there's a lot of people who have addictions, and I know obviously relationships, it's one of probably a pillar in a relationship. So how do we understand it? How do we improve it? And how do we educate people in general to be better with it?
I think that what you're doing, Lachie, I think with the Man That Can project is important. I think that a lot of what the issues with porn is that people feeling shit about themselves, and the work that you're doing with men is helping them feel better about themselves and realizing that they don't actually need that shit. So what you're doing this is the work. This is the change,
Definitely. Well, more self-awareness, the more we can get more of what we want and fuck off the other distractions and poor habits. But gents, thank you so much for your time and experiences. It's been awesome. And until next time, I'll chat to you guys soon. Guys, thank you so much for listening into the episode. If you got value, please leave a review, share it on your socials, and get your butt in the free Facebook group, The Man That Can Project. We look forward to connecting with you, and maybe in the future you can join us on some of these open discussions. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to having you listen again soon. Thank you for listening to the Man That Can Project podcast. My name is Lachie Stuart, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. If you did, please take a moment to rate and review the Man That Can Project on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our newest episodes. We'll see you again next time.